There's a serious issue concerning the proposed location. It is permanent, unchangeable geographic structure. I'm talking about the Runnymede Rd railway underpass. I think it's important that we continue to discuss this issue. The proposed location sits at the mouth of this underpass, mere meters from it, and poses serious potential dangers and logistical issues. Not only the shelter residents, as well as the current community there. There have been some issues brought up about improving the underpass. That would be fantastic. That should happen regardless of whether this shelter goes through. The underpass is the singular passageway for thousands of pedestrians every week, traveling from the at-risk community of Rockcliffe-Smythe into the junction. They all need to travel through this singular tunnel to make it to and from their destinations. There are no reasonable alternative routes. It is impossible to avoid. Is it reasonable to put a 100-bed men's shelter in a location that is impossible to avoid? I think the men who use shelters need assistance. I think they need our help. And I think that shelters can be appropriately located throughout the city, including in our ward, Ward 11. But to propose, let alone actually consider placing any such facility at a funnel point, a choke point, one which connects two entire neighborhoods together, quite frankly, is irresponsible, short-sighted. This is a permanent location. This plan is the plan of someone in a rush. It is opportunistic. It is because a building became available, and that is it.
The siting of shelters seems to me to be driven solely by a real estate opportunity.
If we could find an alternative location that is not located near this choke point, why would we not consider it? This is not a movable location. This is not a movable structure. Why would we not consider an alternative?
I'm just picking up on something you said, that this location is impossible to avoid.
Correct.
Why would we want to avoid a men's shelter?
I don't think that's a serious question. I think you're trying to take some type of moral high ground and make me look petty suggesting that it is something that a single woman walking at midnight would seek to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's quite naive, and I think you're trying to belittle the argument by taking a moral high ground on that.
Okay, that is not the case. I'm just mindful. Do you believe that homeless people lack a moral compass?
No. I think the homeless people
criminals?
See, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So I'm wondering why I would want to avoid a homeless person or a homeless men's shelter.
We're talking, okay, let me address that specific question. If this were a 100-bed fraternity for single men, I would also have issues about single women traveling down there late at night. It has nothing to do with homelessness. This has to do with a concentrated single men population at a chokehold location.
When you're saying, and you're talking at night, are you also, you mentioned men or people going to work during the daytime. Is your concern during the daytime?
24/7.
That's what I'm trying to get at, what the concern. You mentioned children and people going to work.
Introducing 100 population of single men at a chokehold location in the city, which is avoidable, currently avoidable. You are setting yourselves up for a dangerous situation, which is avoidable. You have the responsibility to analyze this and realize the potential dangers for citizens. This is not a joke. This is not about rushing something through the committee and conveniently placing something where a building suits its needs. Location is more important, if not, it's more important than the building structure itself. Yes, I realize that the building became available conveniently due to the Goodwill closing. My problem is with the competency of the decision-making. If the people in charge are so short-sighted that can't see a singular problem such as this, then that needs to be analyzed and those people need to be scrutinized.
Would you agree that we do need shelters in the city?
Absolutely.
And
I think every ward should have a shelter.
You heard there was a deputant that was in favor of the shelter at that location, at the location we're talking about, but she did raise some concerns about the process, some issues that hadn't been addressed, talk about inherent violence in certain situations in these shelters, right?
Okay.
You heard that, yeah?
I've worked out of shelters. They're inherently violent institutions. They're very problematic on many fronts, but they're necessary in the interim until we get this thing sorted out.
Would you agree that there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a concern about a homeless shelter if it's not done properly, if staff haven't addressed the issues properly, and if we don't listen to the community to get it right?
Sure.
Thank you.